This presentation is designed to take you a little deeper into the mechanics of human design. I want to introduce you to the 6 elements of the mechanic that you will find on a chart, so that you can begin to understand what it is that you're looking at. It's all very well being able to say that you are this type with this profile and so on, but knowing what that means will help you on the way to actually working with the information rather than it just being another interesting system. Human design is an experiential system that can change your life, and I'm looking forward to taking you further down this path and giving you some of the tools that you will find useful as you begin your own journey. There's a lot of information here, but there will be a PDF attached, so you don't have to make notes or try to remember everything. This is Human Design Mechanics 101. There are different programs available for generating your chart. Most of them are free, and while they all look slightly different, they should all have 6 important pieces of information in common. Type, strategy, and inner authority, and these are key to human design. If you dig further into the information, you will often hear follow your strategy and your authority, and this is the information that's referred to. Then we have profile, definition, and the incarnation cross, which are other important aspects, and we shall look at these as we go through this presentation. We begin with type and strategy. Some schools of human design say that there are 5 types. They differentiate between generators and manifesting generators, but they are the same type. They share an aura, which is how we tell them apart. We will look at aura as we go through each type. Let's start with generators. They make up 70% of the population and are the majority as far as type goes. Whatever other centers are defined in the chart, a generator always has sacral definition. It's that red square there. It's what makes them a generator, the center with the life force that enables growth and expansion. This is their defining center. So we have the pure generator and the manifesting generator, who will also have sacral definition, of course, and also the throat will be connected to one of the motor centers. The pure generator may well have throat definition, but it won't be connected to a motor. Generators are here to build, and when they're in the flow, they will feel satisfaction. When they come up against resistance, they will feel frustration, and their strategy is to wait for something to respond to, something to give their energy to. By the way, the manifesting generator is a generator who can also manifest, and not a manifester with a bit of extra energy. They tend to be quicker than pure generators. They absorb ideas quickly, and they can sometimes skip steps when they're doing things. Generators make sacral sounds, whether they're conscious of this or not. They don't have to force the sounds or find their voice, but they do need to listen to their bodies. They need to be aware of what their energy is available for, because incorrect commitment can lead to frustration rather than the satisfaction that is their signature. The aura of the generators is open and enveloping. It's like a big hug that pulls people in and makes them feel comfortable, so it's important that the right people are coming in. The strategy for the generators is to wait to be asked, responding through their sacral voice and their inner authority, which helps indicate who is correct for them to engage with or not. The next type is the manifester. They are one of the minority types. There are only about 9% of the population who are manifestors. They have an aura that is closed and repelling. They are here to initiate, and in order to avoid anger and to feel peaceful, they have the strategy of informing. The manifester has a lot of power, but with no sacral definition. They are the world's initiators. When they want to do something, they do something, and they only have to wait if they have a design requiring that they have to wait for emotional clarity. Other people can feel very uncomfortable with the fact that manifestors can initiate, and with the fact that they don't need any help doing it. They're here to initiate and delegate, not do all the work themselves. When a manifestor is engrossed in manifesting, they just want to be left alone to get on with it, and their aura helps them with this. You just know when you're not welcome in someone's space. You can almost feel them pushing you out, and the chances are that this is a manifestor. Aura is always there, but sometimes it is more intense than others. It serves them well. When they initiate, someone will be impacted by what they are doing. In order to avoid resistance, which brings up anger, manifestors can learn to inform whoever they're impacting, and then they will find peace, which is their signature, their signpost for knowing they are in the flow of life. And this is the strategy of the manifestor. This informing can be on something simple, like getting up to leave a room, because their aura is so powerful it can leave people wondering, what did I do? Unless the manifestor says, I'll be back in a minute, or something similar. It can be a more impactful event, like leaving a job. Coming home from work and telling your partner that you walked out of work today isn't likely to be the peaceful experience that sitting down and informing them beforehand would be. It is very important for manifestors to know that they are not asking for permission. This isn't the same thing at all. Projectors are next. They are around 20% of the population, so still a minority. They are here to guide, to advise, but only when they're recognized for their gifts and invited to do so. Their aura is focused and absorbing, and when they are in the flow they feel success. When they meet resistance through initiating or accepting invitations that weren't actually correct, they can feel a lot of bitterness. Waiting for recognition and invitation is the strategy of the projector. They are leaders and guides, and a fairly new force on this planet. Their lesson is in spotting when they have been truly recognized and correctly invited, and in understanding that not all correct invitations need to be accepted. Because projectors work best one-on-one, and because they have to wait for invitations, life can be slow for them, and the waiting can be very challenging. Sometimes there aren't many invitations at all, and this brings a challenge of being happy just being, coming to an awareness that they are complete without the invitation. Oh, but the correct invitation is very sweet indeed. They are not here to do. They are here to play and enjoy themselves until the right invitation comes, and then they engage and guide with brilliance and will feel successful. The aura of the projector is focused and absorbing, with an ability to really hone in on the other. They are all about the other. The correct invitation, often from a generator who's offering their energy in exchange for guidance, will feel good to both parties. When a projector focuses in on someone without invitation, it can feel very intrusive. They have a gift for mastery. When a projector finds something that they can immerse themselves in, they will devote huge amounts of time and energy into mastering that system and then guiding others with the knowledge they have gained. And the final type is the reflector. They are quite rare. Only 1% of the population are reflectors. They are here to evaluate, to keep tabs on the environment, and their aura helps them with this by being resistant and sampling. They constantly hope to be surprised by life, by people being correct, and they are often disappointed. Their strategy is to wait, often for a month, sometimes more, sometimes less, but in 1 month the moon goes through all the gates of the body graph, and this also helps them sample the energy and find clarity. And you can see immediately that what makes them unique among the types is that they have no centers defined, but they still have the same number of gates as the other types, and those gates are all activated once a month by the lunar cycle, and at other times when people come into their aura. They are here to allow the universal flow of intelligence to move through and to be in the presence of that and to be in relationship with that. They will probably have spent their whole life trying to be what they are not, because there is little consistency for them, and this can be uncomfortable until they know that it is just who they are. They can learn to be in tune with the environment that they are in, and to purely reflect what they experience. They can't help doing this, but other people may see only the reflection and confuse the reflection with the mirror. The aura of the reflector allows them to dip in and out of life without getting too bogged down in the minutiae of it all. A little bit here and there allows them to get a taste for the whole environment, reflecting back to everyone what they're receiving is the gift of the reflector. The resistance in the aura is helpful when there is so much openness. It gives them a kind of Teflon protection against conditioning from others. So that is type and strategy. And next we have inner authority, and this is where we're designed to make our decisions from. Inner authority comes from specific centers that are defined in the body graph, and as you will see, it is never the mind. We begin with the solar plexus. It's the brown triangle on the right of the chart, and if it is defined, it is always the authority. It brings an emotional awareness that operates in waves. To make a correct decision, you must wait through at least one complete up and down cycle of your emotions and see how you feel about the decision at various points on your wave, finding the point where you are no longer feeling nervousness. You are not designed for spontaneous decision-making. Your clarity comes only over time, and it is never 100% clear because the wave is always moving. But you learn that making decisions from the top of the wave, where everything is bright and fun and amazing, is just as damaging as making decisions from the low point on the wave, where everything is dark and depressing and crap. The wave moves, you move with it, sampling every now and then, how does it feel now, and now, and now? There is no 100% certainty when you have solar plexus authority, and no immediate decisions, not for the important things, and that can be difficult for everyone, especially these days where we want instant decisions and complete certainty. It can be a bumpy ride, but it's just the mechanic. Emotions need feeling and not explaining or justifying. Feeling them means noticing them and taking responsibility for them, because they're part of who you are. It is of course important that you have people around you who respect your wave, who understand the time it takes to make decisions, and who don't pressurize you either to make quick decisions, or who try to make you happy when you're down, or who pull you down when you're feeling high, but who just let you get on with whatever process you're in, whichever end of the wave that happens to be. It is just a mechanic, after all. It's just emotional weather. Sacral authority is next in the hierarchy. If you don't have the solar plexus defined, the next center we look for is the sacral, and this inner authority applies only to generators and manifesting generators, because they are the only ones with sacral definition. Your sacral response in the moment is your answer. After waiting for your sacral response, no further waiting is needed. You are designed to make decisions in the moment based on your sacral response. Yes/no questions are the way that you best respond. Multiple choice can be confusing and bring a subtle kind of anxiety. It may not be an oral voice. You may find that it is more of an energetic feeling in the body or a movement of some kind, and it will be something you've been doing all your life but maybe haven't noticed. Some people frown on the noises that generators make, and as a child you may have been discouraged from making them, but they will still be there. If you don't have either solar plexus or sacral definition, the next center we look for is the splenic center. If you have splenic definition without either of the others, then this is your inner authority, and you are designed to be highly intuitive and spontaneous, especially around your own safety and security. This is a very primal awareness center and has a lot to do with the senses. So when your body wants you to be aware of something, you may become sensitive to smells or sounds. If you have this center defined together with either the sacral or the solar plexus, then you also have intuition or gut instinct to guide your decisions. You are designed to make decisions in the moment with the benefit of your intuitive awareness, but only in conjunction with your personal strategy. The mind really likes to get involved with making decisions, and it certainly doesn't like things it can't explain, such as the instinctual splenic awareness that tells you to get the hell out of somewhere you're supposed to be meeting an important business contact, for example. But the body knows, and it's important to pay attention to something that has your safety and security as a primary awareness. These are the inner authorities that will show up most often, and it may be that 1, 2, or all 3 are defined in your chart. So remember that everything defers to the solar plexus, even if you have the sacral voice giving you a aha, or the spleen saying no way. For important decisions, waiting out the emotional wave is the path to correct decisions. If you have none of these defined, we next go to ego authority. Ego is also known as the heart center, and if it is defined without the spleen, sacral, or solar plexus, it is the authority, and if you have this, you will follow your will. There are 2 ways that this authority is expressed. The first is the ego to the G center. These are projectors, so they must wait for an invitation, and then their willpower kicks in. It is not a spontaneous thing for them, but they are expressing what they're committing to and aligning themselves willfully to what they are here for, being their best self, being in the right place at the right time. The second expression has the ego to the throat, and this belongs to the ego manifestors. The ego is being expressed directly through the throat, so you can listen to what these people say in the moment and you can hear the will expressed. Willpower allows them to make commitments to say, I will do this, and mean it, to deliver on it, to see it through. The power of the manifestor can be heard in this voice. The ego is all about personal willpower, and it's a motor too, so there could be a call to action if that is the decision, or a collapse into bed when the motor has run out of fuel. It is really important to listen to your body's needs for balance between rest and activity, especially if this is your inner authority and you have a decision to be made. Listening to your body, making decisions in this way, it can be seen as selfish. Human design is sometimes called enlightened selfishness. It's not wrong to look after yourself in this way. It's just not common. As we work through the hierarchy of inner authorities, the next centre we come to is the G centre, the diamond in the middle of the body graph. If you have this centre defined without the other authorities we've already looked at, then you have self or G authority, and you will be a projector, using your inner knowing of what makes you happy to help you make decisions. You will ask yourself, will this make me happy? Will this take me in the right direction? Because the G is the centre for love and direction. You will need to discuss your decisions with others so that you can hear yourself speaking out loud. Listen to what you say is the motto for the defined G. Their physical environment can have an impact when they're going through their decision-making process. They will do best if they're comfortable and feeling at home whilst talking their process through, although it's often not a long and drawn-out thing for them. They can decide quickly when they feel what is right. On to the environmental authorities, also known as outer authority. This is a process that requires engagement with others, and that might be places or people. And that's why it's called an outer authority. It's literally not inner. There is no place in their body that they can rely on for making decisions. If there are no centres defined below the throat, then they get their guidance from the environment and from discussing their potential decision. They need to remember that if they are in the wrong environment, then they are with the wrong people. There are two ways for this authority to appear. Both are projectors again, and they are known as mental projectors. In the first we have the ajna and throat defined, which enables expression of what the mind is thinking, but can create a tendency to make decisions from the mind. In the second we have both the head and the ajna defined, and this is someone who is fixed and specific. They can be closed to the ideas and opinions of others because they have their own truth. These inflexible thinkers can find it very hard to change their minds. Those with environmental authority often have people around them that they can trust implicitly, and they engage in conversation, using the other as a sounding board, gaining access to all the different things they're saying and the way they're saying them, and really hearing what they themselves are saying, and then making their own decision from there. They may need several conversations with multiple groups of friends before they feel ready to make a decision, or maybe just one trusted confidant will allow them to tune in to what they need to hear. And finally we have the lunar authority. It is only the reflectors with no centres defined who have this authority. Like the mental projectors, it is important for reflectors to have people around them, trusted advisors with no agenda of their own, to use as sounding boards, because they also need to hear their own words as they wait for a full cycle of the moon to achieve clarity. Remember that reflectors kind of sample the energy of others. They literally reflect that energy and can use it to get a sense of their own process. They watch and listen, and although waiting out the moon cycle can seem slow and laborious, it leads to sound decisions. As they interact with people through this cycle, they can hear what they're saying, and at some point something will click, a bit like the emotional wave. Something will click and they will have enough data to make their decision. And it might not take a full cycle, it might just take a few hours, but it could also take a few months. There are 3 centres that are never authorities for decision making. The first is the head, the second is the throat, and the third is the root. With the head and root being pressure centres, this indicates that we should never make decisions when we are under mental or physical pressure. The throat is the centre for manifestation. We also don't manifest our decisions. So here is a brief recap of the 4 types with their strategies and their possible authorities. This will be in your PDF attachment so you can refer to it. Following our strategy and authority may not be a smooth road. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be magically okay, especially when we're dealing with the conditioning in other people who want us to be a certain way, react the way we've always reacted, and don't want us to change. But the path will certainly be an interesting one, and you will be putting yourself in the correct place for whatever it is you need to learn on your journey. Next, we shall look at centres, how they operate when open and when defined. Do you remember this slide from the introduction? Centres can be open, undefined, or defined, depending on gate activations. Where we are defined is our nature, and we broadcast those qualities out. Where a centre is defined is where you are fixed and consistent. It's almost as though that centre is full. There is no room for outside influence. This is who you are, and these qualities can become a source of wisdom for yourself. The red symbol represents the transmitter. Where we are open is where we can receive and absorb conditioning from others. It's often called the not self purely because it's not the true self. It can have a volatile and unreliable energy, but it is flexible. When you get to know your openness, and when you are reflecting back for other people, when you drop your stories about it and it becomes pure openness, then you can become a source of wisdom for others, and this is outer authority, and is represented by the transmitter with the blue border. As we go through the centres, you will also see this symbol, which indicates distorted behaviour or responses. We are all being conditioned all the time. We can't get away from it, and there's nothing wrong with it, as long as we don't get lost in it and in what we are receiving. Conditioning comes from family and friends who have gates and centres that we don't have. It comes from the person you walk past in the street, and it comes from the planets and neutrinos moving through the gates as they travel the solar system. Conditioning brings us experiences and opportunities to discover things about ourselves and others. Conditioning is definitely not bad. Each open centre has a key question that we can tune into that will help show us if we're being correct or not. The percentage numbers tell us the percentage of those in the population with openness in this centre. For example, the solar plexus is defined for approximately half of the population. The chances are that half of the people you meet will have this centre open and will be avoiding confrontation. They will also seem to be very emotional because they will absorb, amplify and reflect back the emotions of those defined solar plexus that they meet. The other half will be defined and transmitting their emotions into the environment. When we are operating from our strategy and authority, our openness becomes the source of our wisdom. We can use our minds to watch the way our not self works, taking us a huge step forward in the development of our consciousness and self-love, and we can fulfill our purpose because our energy is not pulled away by trying to be what we are not. The mind loves to tell stories. It loves to pretend that it is in control and can make all the decisions and take charge. As you now know, we each have an inner authority, and we don't use the mind to make decisions, ever. Let's take a quick look at the centres one by one and see what the wisdom and traps are for each one. Starting at the top of the body graph, we have the head centre, the centre for inspiration and ideas. When you have this defined in a healthy way, you have a constant and healthy need to ask questions and find answers. The pressure to understand is a natural process for you. You have a fixed way of thinking, and others can be stimulated by the questions, insights and opportunities that arise. With an unhealthy expression of this centre, you feel the constant pressure of the mind to understand, and that can cause mental anxiety. Don't take hasty decisions and actions just to get rid of the anxiety, and when you try to impose your ideas on others, you will find resistance. It may be hard for you to remain patient, but let the pressure of inspiration be. It is a natural part of the thought process. It is important to have patience and use your strategy before taking action and before sharing your ideas. The shadow of the open centre is distraction, getting lost in thinking about what doesn't matter. It's easy to fall into the trap of finding answers or solutions for others. There can be pressure to act when there are inspiring thoughts, and it is difficult to distinguish what question or idea is valuable. The gift can be found in the endless spectrum of the mysteries of life and the exploration of human intellectual possibilities. You're enjoying questions or confusion, trusting them or not. You are open to the surprise of uncertainty, and you explore ideas and inspiration coming from all sides. You understand which inspiration is worthy of reflection and which is just distraction. Make a list that will allow you to remember what you need to focus on. Use your strategy before taking action or searching for answers. The defined ajna in a healthy state brings a specific, analytical, reliable but fixed way of thinking. You are able to create concepts and share opinions. You have a processor that is always working, constantly thinking, and enjoys mental stimulation. You are mentally creative and inspire others to think. You have an ability to hold information. With an unhealthy expression, you can be obsessed with thinking without rest. The tendency is to over-rely on the mind and make decisions from the mind. It can be a waste of energy and time to think about what can no longer be changed. There can be mental anxiety when there is no certainty and answers cannot be found. You can put pressure on others to be as certain as you are, and there can be a refusal to accept the opinion or certainty of others. Making decisions out of mind can mislead you. The mind is designed to share insights with others when it's invited to. So learn to feel the anxiety when you don't have an answer yet, and trust that the answer will come. Understand that you cannot know your truth from rational thinking. The shadow of the open ajna is to be mentally defensive. You feel the pressure and expectation from others to be certain and to have fixed opinions. You try to be sure and you fiercely defend your point of view, even pretending to be sure so that you don't look stupid. Because it can be scary when someone doesn't know and they think they have to have all the answers. But the gift is that you know you can never be sure and you feel okay about it. You can discern which opinions and concepts are valuable. You ask when you do not know. You acknowledge when you are wrong and you are able to ask for help. And you absorb information like a sponge. Feel comfortable when you don't know, when you're not sure, or when you're wrong. Enjoy all the different ways that you can use the mind. It's an advantage of this open center. Learn to say, I don't know, I'm not interested. And choose for yourself what you're interested in and find useful. The throat is the center for communication and the manifestation of ideas into form. When it is expressed correctly, you have a consistent, reliable, but limited and specific way to express yourself. You have an authentic voice and specific use of words. You can manifest through communication and or action, bringing ideas and opinions to realization. An unhealthy expression means that you may have a tendency to speak or act too early or too late, and so what you say is not well accepted or understood by others. You may have the desire to speak impulsively, wasting your energy. Use your strategy before taking action or sharing your thoughts and ideas. The shadow of the open throat is trying to be the star. You may speak too much, trying to draw the attention of others. You may find silence awkward or uncomfortable, so you initiate conversation. You can feel insecure about what needs to be said, as you have no fixed or reliable way to express yourself. But the gift is in understanding that you naturally attract the attention of others, and you wait for the invitations to come. You know you can't plan anything to talk about because you don't have fixed expression, but you do have the potential to express yourself in different ways, and you feel comfortable in silence. So talk less, listen more. Wait for the right time to speak, and then you will be heard and understood. Let others have their say, and stop controlling what you say. You're here to speak spontaneously. The G Center is all about identity and direction, and a healthy expression of this has a strong sense of self and identity, regardless of who you are with and where you are. You have a reliable sense of direction or your mission in life. You can help others find direction, encouraging them to look for their own path. You can love others without making them dependent on you. When displaying the unhealthy expression of this center, you have the expectation that others will go where you go and get annoyed when they don't. You change course without waiting to be asked, and so you face resistance. You may betray your direction or identity due to the expectations being imposed on you. Understand that not everyone is meant to follow the same path that you are on. Be sure to wait for the invitation before attempting to guide or instruct them. If you have betrayed your direction, go back to your strategy to return to your centre. The shadow of this centre is role confusion. You're not sure who you are and where to find love, and there can be a constant search for direction. There can be a tendency to try to find and stick to only one role, and you can feel lost. But the gift is knowing that you are sensitive to the environment, understanding that the right place is what feels right for you. You have an acceptance of your flexible identity. You know it varies depending on who you're with, and you can help others by recognizing and reflecting their direction to them. You have a confidence that your direction will be shown by life itself. Trust yourself. Let go of the desire to find only one version of yourself. Your direction develops or mutates throughout your life. Do not try to find it or be sure of it. Enjoy a flexible identity and direction, and make sure that you work or be only in places that make you feel good. The sacral centre is the centre of our life force energy. When this centre is operating with a healthy expression, you have the creative, vital, sexual life force of the planet. Every day you generate a certain amount of energy to use in creating what you enjoy creating, and you can create and provide energy to others. Your sacral response sets limits to protect you from damage by wasting your energy inappropriately. During the day, the energy must be discharged, so you fall into bed exhausted, and overnight it regenerates again. The unhealthy expression brings a degenerative effect on the body when the energy is not used properly, resulting in burnout. Frustration is your signpost to indicate when your energy is committed incorrectly, when you may find you're overworking and nothing flows smoothly. Be careful when other people want to take advantage of your energy. Do not initiate, because then your energy loses the power to sustain you when you're experiencing difficulties. Listen to your response. It will let you know if you have the energy to commit or not. The shadow of the open sacral is over-enthusiasm, taking on too much, assuming responsibility, and not knowing when enough is enough. You can get energy drunk, and you keep working even when you're exhausted, feeling guilty that you need to stop and rest. The gift is that you have respect for your inconsistent energy. Conscious observation is needed here to monitor your energy levels and allow yourself to rest and relax. You can know that you are not here to work in the traditional sense of the word, but you are here to guide others, initiate or evaluate, and you can choose when to walk away from the energy. Work more inventively, work wiser, not longer. Delegate. Listen to the need for your body to rest. Avoid activities that require long-term physical energy and commitment. Learn to control your energy. Lie down during the day. You're a sprinter, not a marathon runner. The heart, or ego center, is about willpower, material values, and managing physical resources for its tribe or community. Expressing this center in a healthy way will mean you like to create and control your material resources, and you are often a better boss than employee. You have a natural feeling of self-worth and can build trust by making and keeping promises. Maintaining a healthy balance between work and rest is crucial. When operating from an unhealthy expression, you will find that there's no heart in what you're doing. You put pressure on others to be just as willful as you are, and you become the dominant ego, forcing others to perform more than they naturally can. You can put pressure on others to prove that they are worth something. You may fail to deliver on your promises and ignore your body's need for the work-rest balance. If you feel frustrated, annoyed or angry, it shows that it is time to step back and regain a healthy inner balance of strength. In order to lead others and control material resources, you must be recognized and invited, thus avoiding misunderstandings and resistance. The shadow of the open ego is overworking, making promises you can't keep and working hard to prove your worth. You constantly compare yourself with others and wait for their confirmation to feel worthy. But the gift is knowing that you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You value yourself and do not feel the need to compete or compensate. You notice when you are pressured by others. You can feel if someone has healthy self-esteem and can deliver on their promises. And you always follow your strategy before making a promise. You learn to say, I may, rather than I will. Relax. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You are perfect as you are. Rely on your decision-making strategy before you make a promise. Your mantra is, I'll do what I can, but I'm not promising. Trying to prove yourself is a mind game that you just won't win. The root centre has the pressure and fuel to overcome, develop and adapt to the most difficult challenges of life. Here are the fuels to move and do, to survive and to feel. And when the expression of this centre is healthy, you are able to avoid unnecessary stress, and you understand how you unconsciously influence others to feel the pressure to get things done. With an unhealthy expression, you rush to make decisions or perform tasks to get rid of the pressure. Decisions should be made from strategy and not from pressure. You can be impulsive. You can hype up the stress levels for others. This is a centre of pressure and a motor. There is no awareness here. So if the body does not move, then you do not need to move it now, although the mind might try to convince you that it is necessary. And the shadow of the open root is that you are always rushing. You have a vulnerability to external stress and the adrenaline energy of others, and this can make you feel impatient and restless. You may rush and feel huge pressure to do all the work as quickly as possible, except you find there is always more to do. The gift of this open centre is that you are healthy and not stressed, and you are not dependent on pressure. You can allow pressure to flow through you without taking action. You do not need to make decisions whilst you're feeling pressured, and when necessary you are able to use the adrenaline pressure in your favour. Slow down, relax, delegate tasks. Do not judge yourself for being lazy and for your inability to act quickly. Take as long as you need to enjoy your tasks. With a defined solar plexus, feelings are the indicator of what is right for you and what is not. When the expression of this centre is healthy, you can learn to develop patience whilst awaiting emotional clarity. You allow yourself to be alone when you experience the low side of your emotional wave, and you understand that you are responsible for the emotional climate of your environment. Coming from an unhealthy expression, you find that impatience and spontaneous decisions can lead to inappropriate choices. You put pressure on yourself, trying to stay in a high emotional wave so that those around you are more comfortable, and you punish yourself when you are in a low emotional wave. Without awareness, you can create emotional chaos when you experience a low surge, blaming others for what you are feeling. Understand that the emotional swell is an inevitable chemical process. It is just mechanics. Your wave is constantly moving like the ocean, from hope to frustration, from joy to tears, and over again. Let yourself be carried by the waves, and be with whatever comes. The shadow of the open centre is oversensitivity. You can frequently feel nervousness and defensive. You maybe avoid confrontation, conflict, and telling the truth so as not to upset others. You can be emotionally sensitive and vulnerable. You take on and identify with the emotions of others, and you pretend that all is well with you when it really isn't, and you don't feel that at all. The gift of this open centre is that you are a natural empath. You do not take on the emotional reactions or dramas of others, but remain an observer of the emotional climate, rather than getting involved in it. You understand how emotions affect you and others. You tell your truth when you need to, regardless of how others react. Do not identify with the emotions of others. Stay emotionally calm and impartial. Understand that you are a barometer of the emotional environment. Take time to be alone. Follow your strategy. And tell your truth when necessary. And finally, the defined spleen. With a healthy expression of this centre, you have reliable intuition and fears that protect you when you are in the here and now. Learn to listen and respond to instinctive signals that warn you of what you need to know in order to survive, adapt, and thrive. You can experience excellent physical health and deep joyfulness. When you are displaying an unhealthy expression, the mind can overshadow subtle instinctive messages. The mind is twice as loud as the splenic signals, so you ignore important information about a situation, ignoring your innate instincts. You may experience unnecessary health problems and feelings of sadness. you can be frozen in fear. Be here and now. Listen in the present moment to what the body tells you. The mind is twice as loud. It will try to distract you, or you will ask your mind how to behave. Instinct doesn't answer questions. It simply warns, now. Trust it. Don't ignore it. And the shadow of the open spleen is that it's hard to let go. You may lack flexibility, hanging on to things that are no longer healthy or useful, whether that's relationships, work, habits, or places. You may have a deep fear for your own survival, and you will be sensitive to feeling and accepting the fears of others. You try to find spontaneous solutions, although you are not designed to do so. With the gifts, you abandon spontaneous decisions because you know that you cannot trust the ever-changing impulse of the moment. You recognize which fears are yours and which are absorbed from the environment. You have the wisdom of health and the immune system, knowing what is healthy for your body and knowing that this has been managed without your help. You recognize what is not appropriate for you, and you recognize how intuition works. You can let go of things that don't serve you. So start noticing items, events, people, jobs and situations that are no longer useful to you. Learn to adapt. You can be a great healer because you recognize the fears and health problems of others. Remember that open centers are not broken, but they can feel like it sometimes. Feeling other people's stuff can be painful, whether they are pushing out emotions or pressure. Being conditioned and being unaware leads to all kinds of trouble. Once you take this knowledge on board and begin to work with it, it takes about 7 years for the first layer of deconditioning to fall away, which is also the time it takes for all the cells in the body to regenerate. This is deep cellular work. Your open centers will always be open. You will always take in energy and amplify it. But when you've deconditioned those centers, you will be able to observe the energies, recognize they are not you, and choose how much of them you want to actually experience. Through experimentation and awareness, new behaviors can be learned, and you can live in response rather than reaction. So we have looked at type, strategy, and inner authority. The next element is definition. This is where we look at how many defined centers are connected to each other through defined channels, and this is an important part of how we relate to each other and how we perceive relationships. With no definition, no energy centers are defined, so only reflectors have this definition. They need help from their inner circle to gauge relationships or maybe a prospective partner, and they can take a long time to come to a decision about anything. Those with single definition have a continuous flow of energy through the defined centers. They don't need relationships to feel complete. They already have a sense of wholeness, and they are the quickest of the definition types in terms of assimilating information. Those with split definition have 2 separate areas, and the energy doesn't flow consistently between them. They are the only definition type that can find a sense of wholeness in a relationship and are always seeking out their potential other half. They are a little slower at assimilation than the types we've just looked at, as they need to make that connection for the energy to flow smoothly. The triple splits have 3 unconnected areas of definition. They have the most difficulty finding satisfaction in a monogamous relationship because they need variety to connect up their separate areas, which is a challenging demand for any partner. They tend to be slower to assimilate than the single and split definitions. The quadruple split definition. Those with quadruple split definition are incredibly rare, with 4 separate islands of definition. Quad splits appear differently depending on who they're with, and they need even more variety than triple splits, and take the longest of all the definition types to assimilate information and make decisions. 5 different kinds of definition, giving another layer of subtlety to your uniqueness. Whenever you're dealing with a split definition, you have to recognize that the moment you move from single definition to split definition to triple split and then to quad, everything slows down. And as we learn about ourselves and each other, we can bring a different kind of awareness and allowingness into our relationships. The next piece of the puzzle is profile. Profiles are very similar to rising signs or ascendants in Western astrology. They allude to how you operate in the world, your modus operandi. Depending on your profile, you'll either have a more inward, introspective focus overall, or you do better gaining knowledge from the external world and then reflecting on it. Your profile reveals your character, the way you learn best, how you interact with others, and the way you experience your world and the people around you. There are 12 possible variations based on 6 lines. And the next 2 slides are for your reference, for when you look at your own chart. I won't go through them all now, but there'll be a copy of this in the PDF attached to the presentation. As an example of profile, I wanted to show you Sigmund Freud's chart. Taking the information from the previous slide, you can see how he lived out his profile. He was a 3-6, a conscious experimenter and unconscious role model, attracting other people and having unusual experiences and adventures throughout his life. He may have had his fair share of trial and error. He shared his wisdom and guided others, maybe not always offering advice and maybe even seeming aloof. The final element that we will look at in this presentation is the Incarnation Cross. There are 192 Incarnation Crosses, and they essentially summarise your life purpose, your way to serve and contribute to the whole, what you're meant to use your innate gifts to achieve in this life. We don't have to try and find our cross. Whether we are aware or not, we grow into it, usually around the age of 40 or so. There's usually a couple of different versions of the same overall Incarnation Cross, so if you look yours up, make sure that the order of numbers matches your Incarnation Cross, and this will be shown on your chart. I'm only going to give you one example of a cross because they're complex and full readings are required to really look at them in depth. But to show you what I mean, let us look at Freud again. And you can see that his Incarnation Cross is called the Right Angle Cross of the Sphinx, and you can see there the numbers that make up the cross. The life's purpose theme here is direction. The energy this cross brings to the person carrying it is to be open to all possibilities, guiding themselves and us by showing us the many possible directions that are available to create a beautiful world. Someone with this cross may not know how they know the correct direction, they just do, and they can express this direction in their own unique way. They collect experiences and secrets, their own and others, and use that gathered wisdom as they lead their way into the future. And as you can see, Freud's cross expressed itself through him fully. He is regarded as the founder of psychoanalysis, and over his immensely productive and extraordinary career, developed groundbreaking theories about the nature and workings of the human mind, which went on to have an immeasurable impact on both psychology and Western culture as a whole. He gathered his wisdom and he shared it by taking the study of the mind into a new direction. Human design is truly a science of differentiation, with a huge variety of planetary activations, center combinations, channels, gates and lines. Just one gate has 1080 variations when you really delve into the information. And then there are the 12 profiles and the 192 crosses. It allows for so much expression of life, and it encourages respect, awareness and understanding for others and for ourselves. It is not necessary to dive deeply into the material. The information that is on the surface is simple and yet incredibly profound. However you move forward with this knowledge, I hope you have enjoyed this look into the elements that go to make up the mechanic of human design. If you would like to go deeper into the human design system, I can offer you a course called Living Your Design. I work with you in person, usually on Zoom, and we work through the mechanics over approximately 8 hours, spread over 8 sessions. If this interests you, or if you have questions I haven't addressed here, or if you would like a full reading to explore all the elements as they pertain to your chart, please get in touch. You can find me on Facebook at Pathways of Change. Thank you so much for watching this presentation.